Hello guys, welcome to Scripteria. This video is about Winter CMS basic theming. And we want to create a custom 404 arrow page from scratch. We want to make our content manageable for site editors. And last but not least, we are building our new Franconia homepage from a HTML design prototype. And the tools is Winter CMS itself, it's Tailwind 3.0, and we're using the Snowflake plugin for the content management. Alright. Let's quickly recap what this project is all about. As you may remember, we are building a new website for a fictitious customer called Franconia Culture Club, and this Franconia Culture Club is a regional tourism board trying to increase the popularity of Franconia. And the first thing we are doing is we are creating a custom 404 arrow page. But you may ask, why the hell start a project with a 404 arrow page? There are two reasons why I'm doing it here. First, the standard pages like error page 404 not found on maintenance are usually forgotten at the project start, but for sure they will pop up in the very last minute. This is no good, so make this different. Second reason for this tutorial, it simply makes a good showcase. It's a pretty simple page, so we can do templating from scratch without wasting too much time on standard CSS stuff. In the end, it's a Winter CMS tutorial, not a Tailwind or CSS one. Let's have a quick preview of how things should look like once we're finished. The first thing is, this is the design prototype of our new Franconia homepage. You can see it's nothing too complicated, but it's already responsive, and make it a mobile view. You can see it's rendering different for mobile and for a normal browser window. The color palette, the primary color here that we are using is this one here, the Tailwind Rose color palette. And the rose color is an example of a color in Tailwind that wouldn't have been available out of the box earlier, but Tailwind 3.0 is different and it's available now. And the second prototype is the custom 404 arrow page that we want to build, and you can see it's the same color scheme here, and this is how it looks like. And to the left in my editor you can see we already have a 404 HTML file in our theme. Maybe you remember our scaffolding command that we were using in the last video to create our theme. It was PHP artisan create theme Franconia, and this command has created this file for us. So it's already there, and this is how it looks like. You see a lot of room for improvement. Let's start coding. Before we actually start coding, I want to make sure that our Tailwind just-in-time compiler is running correctly. I started it before, but let's stop it and see. This is the command how I started it. This is our input style CSS, src style CSS, and this is the output file CSS style CSS, and I added the -w option, that is, we want to watch our changes. Now start from scratch. Remove everything that is in here. We already set it to our layout Franconia. And now let's start with our first container, and I want to make it flex and flex column. So, sorry, this one. I want to control this vertical space with this container. Flex column. I want to justify the content center. We want to center almost everything here. Items center. And I want to give it a minimum height of the screen size. So make sure it always fills up the whole screen that is available. Great. Within here I want to add another div. This one a very simple one without any additional styling, and the role of this div is it should clamp this part and this part together, so it will center it in the middle of the whole page rendering. Next we want to add this part, and we do it again with a flex box, but in this case it's not flex column, it's flex row. Those of you who know Flexbox probably realize that you don't need flex row here because it's the default. I add it anyway, it doesn't harm. We justify center and item center again, and I want to add one Tailwind class, and it's leading none. And this is just to reset the line height to 0 so that we can control the space just with our Flexbox. And I made a stupid mistake here. It should say div. I make everything a div here. And end it. Now we want to add the 2 fours. Now, as for the text size, it needs to be huge. Text, and the way we do it is we use a relative text size, and the text size is relative to our viewport width. So this will make sure whenever our viewport is smaller, it resizes it to our viewport. The color should be text rows 900. And do we need anything else? I think that should be okay. And duplicate it and save it. Now, how does it look now? That looks not quite right because we are missing flex here. That's better. Now the interesting part, the image. Right, before we fill this in, I want to do the styling first. For the image width, we orientate this, our orientation is this text size, 30% of the viewport width, but we want to make it a little smaller. Now let's make it 20. We want to have this image rounded and have it rounded full. we want to have a small border, and the color of the border should be rose 700. Now the image itself. Snowflake comes into play. If you haven't heard anything about the Snowflake plugin, I really recommend that you have a quick look at an introduction video on my channel. I will probably make a new one, but for the time being, this video should give you a pretty good overview of how Snowflake works and where the benefit is. Now, the Snowflake key is not found image. You can choose anything you like, but I go for not found image, and I add my Snowflake filter, and the first argument, that's the argument we always need, is the type, and the type is image, and that should be good enough for this one. And we want to add a second filter, and this filter is a built-in Winter CMS filter, and it's the Resize Filter. And first two arguments is the image width, the image height, and I put in a third parameter, and this one is this notation: curly brackets and mode : crop. This is the first option we are adding to our Resize filter. What it does is, you can see we need a square image here, and it's most likely that our site editors won't have a square image uploaded. So we crop it to 400 by 400 pixels, and we don't need the full quality here. We want to have tiny file sizes if any possible. So we reduce the quality to 60. So this will even compress the image a little bit more, but we won't see the difference. Now double check our markup here. I can't spot any major problems, so let's synchronize my Snowflake content. PHP artisan Snowflake sync is the command. It says Snowflake sync complete, and I refresh, and I have my not found image. Now let's upload one, and this is the bloke I would like to see there. If you have seen it before, you know it's Erwin Pelzig, and he is a famous Franconian comedian, so it has to do something with Franconia. And as the alt attribute, I choose page not found, save and close. And now we need to configure the alt attribute in our markup. And it's just a simple twig tag. We use the same name as above, not found image, but this time we added underscore alt. And this is the way to retrieve the alt attribute. Save it and see what we get. Sure enough, Mr. Pelzig apologizing. Now we want to add the text below this element here. And for this I add another wrapper, another div container, flex again, and flex cull, and justify center, center everything, item center, and maybe a small margin at the top, and we want to keep that dynamic as well, so 2% of the viewport height this time. The margin top didn't show up correctly because my VS Code extension can't handle the square brackets. What was it? 2% of the viewport height. And in there I have an H3 tag. And class. Now we want to have text. Let's much smaller this time. Let's say 5% of our viewport width. And text rows. Font, we want to go with a light font. We want to make it uppercase. And what else? We want to text center. And put in test here. See what we get. It says test. Just make to have a preview of how it behaves in different screen sizes. I would say for larger screens it's a little bit too big. Make it smaller. For medium screens I want to have the text 4, and for large text 3 viewport width. Save it and preview. That looks better. Okay. Now the text itself, Snowflake again. Call it not found text. Add our Snowflake type text, and this time we add a second argument, and this is the default value, and we want to have in there oops, we cannot find this page. Save it and I sync it. Now refresh, not found text, and the content is already in there. Refresh it and it shows up on the page. Now we cannot find this, oops, sorry, this page, exclamation mark, save and close. That's it. Okay, we want to limit probably the width of our headline for small sizes. So for maximum width of what can we need? 65. Let's go for 65% of our viewport, and on larger screens, oh, that's fine too. That looks better. Yeah. Okay. I've stopped the video, and behind the scenes I've actually pasted the markup that we have here into our Winter CMS homepage, this home.htm. And this is the HTML markup that I used here, and see if it works. Go to our homepage. It takes a while until the images are loaded. Let's reload it. For some reason it doesn't like the images here. I don't care for the moment. Pixum is striking. No, grid 2 is still not showing up. Anyway, let's see what we get for. Yeah, that's better. Now we have 3 images. And we see it works. Good. So this is the layout of our home page. And let's think what we want to use these elements for. The Franconian tourism board tells us there are 3 important parts of the content, and the first part, this is the local breweries and land breweries, I call it. Breweries. And when you think of breweries and Bavaria, it doesn't surprise that there are quite a few of them, but you probably wouldn't know that the highest density worldwide with breweries is not in the classical Bavaria, it's in Franconia itself. So yes, breweries are important. And the second part, of course, is the local food, the specialties that we find there. Let's refresh it. No, actually I want the breweries here, land breweries, and I want the local food here, food. That's the way I have set it up. And the last grid that we want to change is yes, simply sightseeing, beautiful locations and nature. Great. Now I don't want to actually code everything in here, because I don't want to waste your time when you watch this video, but we choose the breweries as our example of how to do it. Now, when we switch from our desktop view to a mobile view, you can see the image changes as well. So we need to have 2 different image sources, because we require the image to be delivered in 2 different aspect ratios. And you probably guess it, we can do it with a resize filter, and that's exactly how we want to do it. Now, comment these 2 lines out for the moment and add our 2 images for breweries here. I put it in the local foot section. That's not the way. Now, here is the block I want to work. Now, add our first image. Again, do the formatting first. Class styling. Now we can actually copy this one. Now for the source we use Snowflake, and I call this breweries image. Snowflake filter, and it's of course image, and then we do the resizing. Resize. Now I'll make it a little bit smaller so we can see. I actually loaded a picture with 1000 pixels and 300 pixels, and that's exactly what I copy here. And you may remember the mode is crop and the quality 60 again. Now duplicate it. For the second image, stop it. Of course we want to copy the whole image here. Now I duplicated the image. For the second view of the same image, I don't need the snowflake filter anymore, because this one ensures that this image is created in Snowflake, and here we just want to reuse it and resize it to whatever we need. And what we need for the mobile view is 600 by 200. 600 by 200, rest stays the same. And then we want to, of course, add our alt attribute, and it's breweries image alt, copy it and add it here. Now I want this text to be editable in Snowflake for our site editors. So I call this breweries text, and Snowflake again, text, and it should say land breweries. That should do the job. Now see if we have made some errors. No, it looks fine here. Now go to the back end, refresh it, and now it's a drop down and I have content on my home page. It's preloaded this image, which is wrong. And the reason why it's preloaded, because I've done this exercise before, and in the background there was still this image attached to the media manager. So just in case you're wondering. And some of you might wonder, this resize filter, this can't be right, because does it every time when I refresh a page needs to generate this resized image? No, it generates it on the first page impression, and from then on it's already there and it reuses the existing one. So you won't have any major delays when you use the Resize filter. In contrary, the loading speed is probably far better than normal. Now let's upload our breweries image, and this is the image we want to use here, and as the alt attribute call it land breweries. Save and close and have a look at our homepage again. Right, because we duplicated the images here, we've duplicated the classes here, and on the second one it should say block, but hide it when it gets larger than small, hidden. Now it looks okay, and go to our mobile view. Now it shows up in the mobile view. Well, and then we certainly want to control this text in Snowflake, so let's quickly edit. Franconia headline, make it snowflake type text, and the default should be Franconia. And the second one is Franconia claim, snowflake again, type text, and it should say the, without the space here, better Bavaria. Now sync it and see if it's already working. It's working, and in the backend it's now controllable. That's it for now. I will actually add the rest of it behind the scenes. I don't want to waste your time too much. I hope you liked it, and take care and see you next time.